Hello and welcome to Everyday Lessons Every Day. I'm David McBee. Just a few short years ago, my family walked on eggshells around me because I was filled with anxiety and anger. I knew I had to make a change before losing them, and that's when I turned to self-improvement books to work on myself and to improve those relationships. After several months of reading every day and applying the lessons I learned, I was able to go from grumpy to grateful, and it was this journey that inspired me to write my book, Everyday Lessons Every Day. Today, I continue my journey. I still read regularly, and I share those lessons here on the podcast. I also invite everyday people to share their own everyday lessons and how those lessons are changing their lives for the better. This week, I sat down with Rob White, teacher, entrepreneur, and author of the Maestro Monologue, a book that deals with the voices in our heads and the way we talk to ourselves. Self-talk is a hot personal development topic. Plenty of books on this topic have been written. A quick Google search for books about self-talk results in a very long list of famous books, including The Power of Positive Self-Talk by Kim Frederickson, You Are What You Think by Dr. David Stoop, The Power of Self-Talk by Stuart Wallace, and one of my all-time favorites, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. I've always believed that words have power, whether they are spoken aloud or simply thought in our heads. Rob's take on self-talk is incredibly interesting. You're about to learn about the maestro and the unwanted house guest that moved in when you were only 2 years old. This is episode 52, the Maestro Monologue. Well, good morning, Rob. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful, David. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. The weather's getting a little bit cooler, and I'm excited for fall to get here.
So where are you located?
I'm in Kansas City, on the Kansas side. What about you? Where are you calling from?
From Boston.
Boston. I would have never guessed.
I just parked my car in the Harvard yard.
Are you wicked smart?
Yeah, I'm wicked smart. Yeah, that's beautiful.
One of my best friends is speaks Boston, I like to say. She's always telling me that the water fountains are called the bubbalas.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. You know, when people say to me, you talk funny, I say, no, I don't talk funny. You listen funny.
Even better.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you agreeing to be a guest on Everyday Lessons Every Day. So thank you very much in advance.
Thank you.
Why don't you take a moment and just let our listeners know a little bit about who you are?
Okay. And thank you, David, for having me on your show.
You're welcome.
So I'm a guy who started out in a simple small mill town on the wrong side of the tracks, even in that small mill town, and managed to take my life through many epics, I call them. First in my family to ever go to college, and went to a big university. In my opinion, it was another universe because I never left my small mill town the whole time I was growing up. So just going to a huge university was a whole different universe. Scared, wanted to go home. That's that other self, the unwanted mental house guest that we all take on at age 2. When we start hearing the no's and start asking what's wrong with me. See, that's what my whole thing is about. Well, I noticed this intruder kept telling me, get back to where you're safe. You can get a nice job at the UTD, that's some factory where your father works, marry your high school sweetheart. And it took a lot of courage for me. And I was broke. I went into college with no scholarships and my parents were poor, so no money from them. And I worked my way through the entire 4 years and never took out a loan, never took out a student loan.
Wow, that's something special right there.
And in order to that, when I left, I had $5,000 in my pocket. Well, from there, that's how I learned how to handle money quickly in life. I got my dad, I love my dad, didn't know how to handle money, clearly. So the point being, then I got offered a job to teach in Athol. Wow, this is perfect. I'll be the hero. Look at me going back to Athol. Or How about if I had the courage to try something totally new and different? So I loaded up my car after graduating and went to the big city. I'd never been to the big city ever, Boston, Massachusetts. And when I drove to Boston, Massachusetts by myself, no friends, no contacts, knew no one in Boston, and didn't know where I was going to stay the first night. Matter of fact, I got a room in a rooming house next to the Prudential Center, which is a very high building, so that if I got lost in the city, true story, I could look up, find the Prudential Center, and find my way back home.
I imagine that was in the time before GPSs.
Absolutely.
What year was that, by the way, when you
Oh,
had graduated college?
we're talking back in 1966.
Okay.
So
Okay.
a long time ago. And my whole life has been in that again, on the way to Boston, that unwanted mental house guest was yelling in my ear, the naysaying no's. You see, my whole point, David, is that at age twos are terrible twos. Not nearly as terrible for your parents as it is for you, because that's when you start hearing no. Now, you hear it out of love, you hear it out of protection for you, and sometimes you hear it because you're driving your parents batty. But every no you take seriously. And by age 5, according to many child psychologists, you've heard the word no in many shapes and forms 60,000 times.
Wow.
By then, what you are asking yourself ongoingly is, what's wrong with me? Because you're convinced there's got to be something wrong with me. Innocent, naive, every one of us. The problem is when you hear the no's, that's when the unwanted mental house guest takes up camp in your mind. And by age 5, you gave birth to that unwanted mental house guest, the intruder, I call it, the counterfeit self, the other self. At age 2 and by 5, it is ensconced in your brain and it never lets go. Now, there's a way to handle it, and that's what my whole book's about. And I prove it works because I've observed myself handling it, and I finally figured out how I do. And I had breakthrough through breakthrough through breakthrough. 17 years of teaching, 40 years old. And I realized I loved teaching, but my dream was to be an entrepreneur and to make a lot of money. So I quit. And I quit on a dime. I decided if I'm really going to live my dreams, then I have to leave the teaching profession. The principal of my school, my colleagues, my family, my friends all said, "Are you out of your mind? You've got 17 years, 3 more years, you get a minimum retirement plan, and you have a lifetime health plan. Are you insane?" I let it go. I had to. By the way, the naysaying no in me was screaming, "You are insane. Don't be stupid. What's wrong with you?" And of course, I could give you a list of 1,000 things wrong with me, which it taught me. The unwanted mental house guest, was wrong with me. But I did it. I dared to do it. And I said, life is so much here to support us. And I just found that every time I had the courage to break through the naysaying voices in the back of my head, those howling no's from years ago, the other self doesn't forget one of those no's from age 2 to 5. It remembers every one of them. And at any appropriate moment, it takes that opportunity to start howling that no and have you retreat.
Rob, I remember as a new parent, someone told me how dangerous it could be to tell your children no all the time, right? I don't know if I read it in a book. I'm a big self-help reader, so I probably picked it up somewhere. So when we raised our children, we didn't tell them no. If they were doing something they shouldn't have been doing, we actually used the word danger. Like if they wanted to touch the stove or put their finger in a light socket, we didn't say no. We said danger, danger. So they understood that the activity that they were doing wasn't acceptable, but we didn't want to shove no's down their throats, if you will.
First of all, I love that. And I never heard that tip. That's an incredible tip for any parents. And I want you to understand that part of the deal of becoming a human being and landing on planet Earth, first of all, there's the Maestro. The name of my book that I am now talking about is the Maestro Monologue. The Maestro is the natural part of you that you sense you can orchestrate your earthly destiny. You sense you can conduct your daily affairs in an effective way to make your dreams come true. And before age 2, you're living from that. That's why the walking and the talking and even the reading and the writing after that are so important to get done up front. Because once the no's take grip, you slow down because you really are convinced that you are not whole. And even here's the part, David, even with your wonderful, that's a great tip. So the no's are not harsh. Danger translated to no, and it also translated to I can't handle it. Mom and dad are telling me danger, meaning I can't handle it. So what's interesting about being a human being that no other being on this planet does experience is you are going to go through a period where you're going to feel inferior. And that part of you is you're going to give birth to the other self. And that part of you is with you for the rest of your life. Now, those who learn how to deal with it do well, but they never get rid of it. Even the best of us never get rid of feeling it sometimes in some situation. I'm inadequate, I'm unworthy. I saw a rock star a few years ago, huge, and his name escapes me, and he got to sing with Pavarotti, and he had an interview before he got to sing with Pavarotti, and he was such an honest, transparent person at that point. He was wringing his hands. This is crazy. I have no right being on stage. See, here's a rock star who everybody adores, but that other self in that moment got a hold of him. Oh my God, what am I, crazy? Going on stage with Pavarotti? I'm a big fake, for God's sakes. I don't know how to sing. See?
Rob, I feel like that all the time. You are definitely speaking truth to my audience, but I can tell you from my own personal experience, when I do a speaking event and there's 300, 400, 500 people in the audience, sometimes I'm like, how the heck did I get here? Like, why are these people about to listen to me? I totally agree with you. So help me understand. You feel like there's almost these two voices in your head. One's the unwanted house guest and the other's the maestro. Do they fight? What's the story there?
No, the maestro won't fight. The maestro is always available. Your intuition, your gut reactions, your sense of something, your decisions that feel right for you. That's the maestro, always ready. But the maestro does not fight with the other self. I have to intervene as the maestro and call an MD. Yeah, call an MD. Not a medical doctor, a marvelous denial. I deny the lies that the other self tell me. When I hear myself saying, for example, I have a problem pronouncing my R's. If I hear me say to you, that's a car, and how do I mispronounce my R's? I pretend there are no R's. I just don't give you an R. The maestro will immediately say to me, even right in the middle of talking to you, did you just hear yourself? Did you hear how you? So I'm busy fighting with this other self that's not me, that I give so much credence to. So I call a marvelous denial, and I'll actually pause, breathe in, and say, that's a lie. I am marvelously made. I am the maestro, and I have difficulty with my R's. I don't deny I have difficulty with but that doesn't mean I'm flawed, inferior, stupid, insignificant, inadequate, insecure. So the way I deal with it, and that's what my whole book is about. It tells you 5 ingredients to how to take care of the other self. Is the first thing I got to do is call upon the rebel within me and rebel for what's right about me. Not rebel against what I don't like about me, or what's right about me. See, what's right about me is I am a rich and majestic child of infinite intelligence. We all are. I mean, that's incredible. Look at us, what we can do. Go to the moon. Are you out of your mind? That's that's unbelievable stuff. What I did, small mill town, to then becoming very successful in real estate and in restaurants. And I was an author, having homes on both coasts. I remember when my grandfather took me to a hotel in Springfield, Massachusetts, and there was an elevator. And we got in the elevator, and it was like, oh my God, look at this. And my grandfather said to me, if you work really hard, you could own your own elevator. Now, that was when I was like 7 or something. It's 7. I own a house with an elevator. See? Now, I didn't think about that at all. until I bought this house with an elevator and I realized, oh my God. See, that was the maestro listening to my grandfather, carrying it forward for 40 years and then acting on it. Now, I can promise you along the way, the other self, the intruder, the unwanted mental house guest, the great pretender, by the way, who is so good at pretending he's you. He's not only conned you into thinking he's you, he's conned the world into thinking he's you. So the world doesn't think you're the maestro. They don't mean to be mean, but no, don't get carried away. My father said to me when I said I'm going to quit teaching, Bobby, are you out of your mind? You need a psychiatrist. No, I'll tell you what you need. You need a team of psychiatrists.
Oh my gosh.
He meant the best for me, but you see, his maestro was giving me my maestro advice, and I had to say to myself quietly, that's a lie. I can make this happen. There's nothing that can stop me except me. And I can't be accepting the advice or the opinions of this other self that's constantly howling no in the background of my mind, in the deep hollows of my subconscious.
It sounds like you've done a lot of research on how the brain works. Or is that true? Or is this just the way that you have envisioned the voices in your head?
It isn't true that I did a lot of research
Okay.
on the brain, and I don't say that to make you wrong. I say it to make a wonderful point. I did a lot of research on what it is to be the mystery of being a human being. And I got a squirrel is a squirrel is a squirrel. I watch them run around, and they're just being squirrels, loving being their squirrelness. Human beings are confused. We can't say a human being is a human being is a human being. If we did, we all would be living from the maestro, fulfilling on our dreams, and man, would that be incredible. We can do something that no other living creature on this planet can do. We can ponder ourselves, and we can talk to ourselves about ourselves, and because of the maestro, we can put ourselves down. No other creature on this planet, except we teach dogs, and that's a shame. Cats won't buy it. You scold a dog enough, and the dog walks around with his tail between his legs, putting himself down. You scold a cat, and the cat scratches you and walks on. He's not interested. But I want to share that because you see, what's amazing is our ability to have a conversation with ourselves about ourselves, about the very self we are, has us able to create new I ams every day that could be a wonderful experience, an expression and an experience that gives us a delight. But we can also create horrid expressions of ourselves when we feel inadequate or inferior. And I saw it in my dad. I see it, and see it everywhere. Even now with COVID, it's the feeling of guilt or shame that has this so scary. We could deal with it with such. I'm saying yes, it's a difficult challenge, absolutely. And the attitude of fear is because of the feeling of unworthiness, and that's the other self. That's what has the whole world running around like a chicken with its head cut off, screaming, the sky is falling down. I'm not saying it's easy to deal with, but I am saying it isn't the pandemic that is causing so much pain, hurt, and death. It's the panic-demic. The panic that has taken off and from mind to mind to mind, from the intruder to the intruder to the intruder that intrudes in every one of us. Yeah.
That's an interesting take on the pandemic. I really like that. So in your book, you say you had 5 ingredients. Do you have time to cover all of them, or do you want to just hit on a couple and then leave us hanging so we all buy your book?
Well, in the book, the Maestro Monologue, there is a dialogue, an actual dialogue. I teach you to speak to yourself with 5 ingredients. And the first one is awareness. You have to be aware there's 2 of you so that you can deal with the one that you. The problem is, not only do you want to be aware there's 2 of you, you give much more credence to the other self, the not you, than you do to the true you, the I am, the maestro. Ingredient number 2, the rebel. You've got to call an MD. Deny the lies you think about yourself and feel marvelous about it. For example, I was convinced I was not that smart. And I'll tell you why. My mother convinced me I was smart, And then in the sixth grade, you go to seventh grade, and you could go to 7-1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. 7-1 were the really smart people. 7-7 were the not really smart people. And I was put in 7-4. And I was so traumatized and so disappointed. And my mother went up and argued, and it didn't work. And then I'm not that smart. Well, I couldn't have gotten to college if I stayed with that. It was my guidance counselor who said to me, "You're a lot smarter than you wanted to give yourself credit for. Why don't you think you're smart? What is it about you that doesn't think you're smart?" And I said, I was put in 7-4, and she laughed hysterically. She said, "Oh my God, do you think they give any thought to what they're doing when they're doing that?" And that. She helped me.
I can't help but interrupt you that like you were hitting on so many things that I relate to. When I was in sixth grade, all the smart kids left on Fridays or whatever for beyond the basics, right? They were the special kids. And my teacher had me tested to see if I could qualify, and I didn't. And that has stayed with me all these years.
Oh, I love that.
Like John Hay and Michael Hobbs, they were so super smart, and they were off on Fridays doing these crazy, I don't know what they did, right? Because I wasn't allowed to go, but I remember feeling like, oh, I want to go to beyond the basics. I don't want to be normal. So yeah, I totally get how that could, you're saying that's kind of stuck with me my whole life, hasn't it?
Well, and it's interesting because the intruder never goes away, by the way, right to the day you die. It's born at age 2 and it dies when you die. Now, how much it bothers you later in life is up to you. There was a pianist, and he was a famous pianist and a composer, and gosh darn it. So he got bad arthritis, and he was an incredible pianist. Bad arthritis in his hands at about 85. From 85 to 92, every time he got to the piano, he would kiss every finger ritualistically, and then he would play in such an incredible way. See, that was he would not let the intruder convince him that with arthritis, you're just not going to, well, first of all, I want you to get that when he got it, the word got out, he had it, and that's the end of his incredible piano playing. He didn't buy it. See, all the intruders in everybody else's mind, and the critics all bought it. His intruder bought it, I can promise you. He didn't listen. He came up with a ritual that brought forth the maestro, kissed every finger on both fingers, and then started playing on both hands, and then started playing like he never played before. Unbelievable. See, that's a good example right there. And by the way, so you would say, well, a maestro of that fame, he doesn't have an intruder anymore. Oh, he has an intruder. It's not getting a grip on him very often. But oh, he has an intruder. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, I probably could talk to you all day, and I'm sure there's a lot more great stuff in your book, but I want to leave the listeners hanging just a little bit. I want to encourage them to pick up your book. I know I'm going to. Can you just share with everyone how they can get a hold of you, how to get a hold of the book, just kind of the red tape so that they can follow up?
Thanks, David. By the way, you're a gentleman. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
You can get it. So Rob White Media is my website, robwhitemedia.com. And you can get a hold of me through robwhitemedia.com. And my book is available on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, and you can even buy it through my website. Yeah.
And the name of the book one more time?
The Maestro Monologue.
The Maestro Monologue. All right. Well, I know I'm going to be getting a copy of it soon. I really appreciate your time this morning. I know that my listeners are going to love these concepts of the intruder and the maestro. I'm going to be thinking about it and talking to my family about it later. So thank you so much for having a positive impact on us today.
You're great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye, David.
Bye-bye.
That was such a fun interview. I'm so grateful for this platform that allows me to meet and engage with brilliant people like Rob. So what do you think? Do you agree with Rob's philosophies? Do you have an intruder that talks to you? I feel like I do. Do you give your intruder power over your actions and your decisions? Again, I do. And are you able to shut down your intruder? Well, that one's a little harder, isn't it? That's where I struggle. I can't wait to get hold of Rob's book to learn all 5 ways to control that conversation and allow my maestro to guide my destiny. Your challenge this week is to pay attention to the way you talk to yourself and to identify the intruder and to listen to your maestro. Write maestro on your wrist as a reminder. And let me know what happens when you implement this lesson by reaching out to me at everydaylessonseveryday.com. You can also purchase my book while you're there or learn more about hiring me to speak about personal improvement at your upcoming event. If you like the stories brought to you by Everyday Lessons Every Day, please consider writing a review. And also, please share this podcast with your friends. Let's see if together we can make the world a better place. I'll see you next time. Now go out there and do something awesome